This is going to be Houston Kold's I'm in Godzi video part 2. This is what we worked on last time, and this is what we're going to be working on this time. Alright, so once you're in Davinci, we're just going to start off by extending the fusion comp that we worked on last time all the way over to our next marker. Then once you have it extended, you can go ahead and just cut this part right here at the first marker and jump on into the fusion page because we're going to get started on the second section that we got here in the clip. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by putting Houston's clip into the second viewer and putting ours into the first viewer. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to move a couple frames forward to see what we got here. And so what we have is we have some sort of YouTube clip, and then we have kind of like a box going around it, as well as his Instagram logo right here with his following, and just some other stuff going on down below in the background. So let's get started on this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to move this media out node down, and now we're going to get started on the second section. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the I'm in Godzi B-roll, this video right here. So we'll bring this right on in, and now we're just going to grab an image plane from right here. Let me make sure I'm grabbing the right one, because we are actually going to want it to be behind Iman. So we'll take the Iman cutout and we'll copy and paste this down here and connect on in our media in one node. Let's rename this to Iman B-roll. And now once we got that named, let's connect it to our merge 3D. And now you kind of got it coming in the background. We even want it behind our background. So what we're gonna do is let's just reset everything for the most part. But before we do that, let's see what we actually need to really reset. So let's come to the frame where we see it on screen. And the first thing that we're going to do with this is we're going to make the background disappear. So let's figure out what frame the background kind of just starts disappearing and what time this starts appearing on the screen. Do the same thing. Okay, so right here you can't view it on the screen, so we'll take it off. And now let's check out when the background actually disappears. So the background actually fades out as the image fades in. So let's see when it's fully on the screen, maybe about right here. So we'll come into the image plane, we'll bring the opacity all the way up, and then we'll do the same thing with the background except opposite. So we'll come into the material, we'll keyframe the opacity, and we'll come back to the first keyframe on this one and keyframe the opacity right here at 1. I'll go ahead and I'll actually get rid of the keyframes from beforehand just so we don't get mixed up. And now I should have something like this. So as you can see, the next step that we're going to be doing is this right here. It starts coming in at like a checkerboard. That's because of the way I saved the clip. But what we're going to do is we're just going to trim the clip. So we're going to come to the first frame where we can actually see the background, which is maybe right here. And we'll just go ahead, maybe we'll go a couple frames forward to make it easier. So we can just keep trimming the clip till we don't see any of that crap. Good. And now what we're going to want to do is we're just going to want to make sure that this background fades away, which it's not. All right, so now we're just going to need to figure out why this background is not disappearing. So let's come into our nodes and try and figure out what's going on. So we got our transform node. If we disable this, then the background completely disappears. We adjusted the image plane and made the opacity. Oh, we didn't change the opacity down to 0. So you need to change the opacity down to 0, and then your background will disappear. So now coming back in, we're going to readjust this clip right here because it's totally out of whack. And so to do that, we're going to bring this guy on our screen, and maybe honestly we're going to need to bring in a background node and connect that to our Iman clip, and just make sure that this stuff is in front, our merge right here, and we want the background to be the background. So hit Control T and just make the alpha value all the way down, bring the merge up on the screen. All right, so now we got something like we want, because this background right here just changed the resolution, so that way it's the opposite of 1080p. It's like vertical. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually zoom in on this clip to get Iman centered in the screen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in a transform node after Iman. We're just going to size this thing up so that way we can fully see everything in the screen. Now we're just going to, let me make sure there's no black bars in here. Nope, doesn't look like there's any black bars, so I'll bring that back up on the screen. And now we're just going to take this transform. We're going to set a bunch of keyframes. So I'll set the first one right here, and we're just going to adjust it so that way Iman is in the screen, and just go forward a couple frames, make sure he's still in the screen, and keep doing that. Keep going a couple frames forward, adjusting him so he's roughly in the center of the screen. Maybe even zoom down a little bit. We can't, so let's just leave it the same. What was it before? 0.5. So we won't touch the Y. You could zoom in the size if you want to. You could keyframe the size as well, but we're not going to. We're just going to make sure that he pretty much stays in the screen the whole time, other than when he falls over drunk. So let me just make sure. All right, so we got him in the screen pretty good where we need him to be. Now we're just gonna make sure everything lines up in our image plane and the transform. So I'll go ahead and bring this back into our second viewer. Now I'm just going to come and scroll back to everything, make sure everything looks good. We're getting a little bit of this in the beginning. I'm gonna come to the first frame that's not there, so maybe about right here, and let's see if we can even come to the B-roll. For some reason it just completely got rid of our trim. All right, that's looking much better, but then there's still yellow right here. Let's completely get rid of this yellow so that way we see Iman. So we might need to readjust this transform node. Yep, we're gonna need to readjust this transform. I'll bring that back on the second viewer, the merge, and now we're gonna come in here and readjust the keyframes. So just adjust Iman into the center. Come to the next one, center them. One, still pretty centered. This one's fine, he goes down. And then just lastly, center him right here. You know what, maybe we'll even center him in here as well. So now I'll come here, we'll center him here, and now we got that whole thing. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to jump back in, make sure this is on our second viewer, and we'll come back to the beginning where this starts to kind of come on the screen. And what we're gonna do is, first off, we're gonna make this a bit smaller, make it zoomed out. So I'm gonna actually want to push Iman in the background. So we will come into this transform, and let's make sure we can really see him, and then I'm going to push back this Z clip. All right, and now you're gonna see we got black background. So this is gonna be in the way as well. So what I wanna do for that is I'm actually going to come to this image plane, and I'm going to do the same thing with this image plane as well. So I'll come back to the first keyframe where it's 1, go to the second one. Okay, looks good. Get rid of all the previous keyframes. Now there's only 2. and set this one to 0. All right, now we should be able to play around with the transform 3D and just kind of make this like a smaller box. So we're roughly going to try and position it and make it the same size as theirs. So if we just disable the I'm in cutout right now with Control P, and now if we come in here and we just adjust the transform and different properties just to make it look approximately like this one, we can get it looking pretty good. All right, we might need to adjust it a little bit. They just have it probably masked off a little bit, so there's a couple different ways that we can do this. We can mask it off, we can distort the image a little bit and kind of stretch it with the aspect right here, and I think that's what we're going to do. If it doesn't look really bad, we're just going to adjust the aspect. I wouldn't recommend doing this in a lot of cases, but it really doesn't look that terrible. So let me just bring it up to make sure. Yeah, it doesn't look that bad with the aspect ratio being changed 0.809. And so we'll just come back in, we'll make sure that this is on our first viewer, and now we pretty much got the same thing going on here, minus the edges being a little bit wider. In order to get the edges wider, we would have to come in here and come to our transform, increase the scale a little bit, and then we're gonna have to really play with the aspect ratio again. Let's see if we can get it to look somewhat nice. See how messed up that looks. So it's up to you guys whether you want to mask it out or use the aspect ratio. We'll try the mask too. Let's see how it looks. So we'll come back into our merge 2 over here, and we'll set that on the second viewer for now. Now we're just going to increase the size of this transform, the scale, and now let's just see what it would look like if we were to put a rectangle mask on this. All right, let's see. We'll even, actually, let's put it on the merge. All right, we'll make it as big as we can to start off, and then we'll tweak it just like that. So let's just scrub through, see how it looks. Other than the fact that it's in a different location right now, I honestly don't think it looks that bad. It's probably better than the aspect ratio, so we'll go with the mask here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be playing around with the camera just to make sure that that's in the right spot. So we'll come to the first frame where we kind of see I'm in start to appear on the screen. So we can come into our image plane and go to the 0 value. We'll go to transform, select all these boxes. Also, I want to make it so that way this video is kind of angled properly. I guess it's not that bad. You could probably just adjust it a little bit. Whoops, I didn't mean to adjust the zoom. I meant to just angle it a little bit more. All right, so now let's come back into the camera and let's go to that first frame. We'll go to where we see it on the screen. Bring this one back up. We'll put it in the first viewer this time. All right, so you can pretty much see the whole clip right here. So let's just make sure that that's adjusted as well. Do like 71, and then we'll really crank down this background as well as this one right here. All right, so now we're going to come back into the camera and we're just going to start making some adjustments so that way this looks pretty similar. We'll maybe tweak the Z rotation. We will come in here, we'll start zooming in a little bit. And how did we make this text? Because it's actually popping up right in front of the screen. We might just have to make this text start to come off the screen as well. because I didn't position it properly. And all right, so I'm gonna make this text come off the screen as well. So we'll just do the very same thing with the text. We're going to copy the opacity values. So I'll come in here, I'll keyframe this, and I'll go to the next one. I'll keyframe it again, and we'll make it 0.063, and then we'll come to the last keyframe. We'll just make it 0. Is that, oh, it's already set to 0. Okay, so we got that. Text should be coming off the screen, and now we'll just adjust the camera angle. So I'll come back into the camera and I'll zoom in a little bit more, and I'll just twist this guy because he starts to twist to this side. And let me disable this clip for a sec. All right, so there's basically a slow zoom in till the end. So we'll go ahead and we'll just create some sort of slow zoom, not quite to the end because it starts coming back out. And now we'll just keyframe everything again, and we'll just make it a little bit bigger, position it. We'll adjust the Z value because he goes diagonal, adjust the Y. Alright, so that should be fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in that background, the Instagram background right there. So we're going to be connecting everything to this clip right here. So I'll go ahead and I'll just start rearranging things. Alright, so let's just move this out. Now we're going to bring that in. So let's just find the Instagram one, connect it to here. We're going to rename it. So we'll rename this Instagram. I just make sure that's the right thing. Yep. Now let's bring this up on the second viewer. We'll bring this up and we're just going to adjust the Instagram logo. As you can see right now, it's right there, but we're going to want it down here. So I'm going to add in a DVE node. We're going to change the Z position a little bit. It's kind of tilted downwards. Also the Y, make it come out like this. All right, now we're going to bring in the Z value just to make it look approximately like this one. We're going to go ahead and move the center value, and we'll just bring it down. So just bring it down to the bottom, and it looks like we're going to need to shift this a little bit. Maybe it wasn't the Y, maybe it's the X value. Let me see. No, but we can play around with the X too. So we'll adjust the X a little bit. We'll adjust the Y value. All right, so we'll do something like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump in here and we're going to get this box around the Iman video. So in order to do that, we'll go back to the first frame that you start to see this box in here. So let's just see, pretty much right off the bat. So yeah, let's just go into a frame where it's kind of like more centered. Now we're going to bring in a background node. We'll connect this to our merge right here, and I'm just going to readjust our stuff again. So let me actually bring this on down into the plane. So we'll do this right here. The background should actually be above. The DVE is going to go over here, Instagram over there. All right, so now we're going to need to make this red, the background, and the transform right here. I also want that to be on the background so that way this moves with it. All right, so now I'm gonna add a rectangle mask to our background. So bring in a rectangle mask, connect it to this merge right here, and we're just gonna make it so it fits the size of this frame. So we'll go ahead and adjust the width. We'll adjust the height and just make it so it pretty much matches this frame. We'll uncheck solid and we'll change the border width just so there's something going around it. And it looks like theirs is quite a bit extended over the top and bottom. So we'll adjust the height and it kind of falls into the vignette, and then it'll be something like that. Now they make it so that way the lines kind of start going around the background. In Davinci, the lines go around in the opposite direction. In order to do that, you need to make sure that you have solid unchecked. Then we can also keyframe this position and the length parameter right here. And we'll just bring down the length so that way we get kind of like part of our line going around, and then we'll come to where it fully goes around, which is going to be right here, and we'll just bring the length parameter all the way up. All right, so that should get us our background there, and we're just going to want to come in here and bring our background out, add in a glow node, and we'll just adjust this glow so that way we can see it. So let's see what color we got. We'll bring the merge up on the screen. See if we can get something more like that. Might just be the red color. So I'll come in, I'll make the red a bit darker, and I'll bring the glow size up, the glow up, the blend. Let's rock and roll with that. That looks good. Now let's bring this back onto the screen, the merge. Now we can take a look at what we got. So let's compare the two. His is on the left, mine's on the right. All right, so a couple different things. We have this line that appears down below, and also we're going to have something else. We're going to have the text pop up on the screen right here. All right, so now we're going to work on this line. In order to do that, we're just going to move all these nodes we got here down at the bottom, and we're just going to bring them down, as well as the media out. We'll bring that down as well, because we're going to make this so that way this is behind the Instagram logo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the image plane and the transform. We'll just go ahead and paste it up here. We'll connect this to our merge 3D and just move this on over. And we're going to need a background node, connect that to our image plane, and actually we can just take the background node down here, the red one, and the transform. We'll just take the glow and transform and everything, and we'll just connect that to our image plane. So now you're going to see a background kind of behind our image. We want this to be smaller. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a rectangle mask, bring it in the background, and I'm just going to adjust the height and width of it till we get exactly what we're looking for, which is going to be this line going all the way across. So in order to do so, we're going to need to bump up the scale on our transform. So let's just make the scale all the way. And now we can adjust the rectangle mask using the parameters here. So just make it approximately like this one. We will change the angle. We'll bring it down. And we're going to put it behind the Instagram logo. So we'll even scoot it back just a little bit. Whoops, that's the rotation. We'll scoot it back just a little bit. So we're going to need to readjust it a bit. Here's the angle. Now I'm just going to make the glow a little bit more apparent. So we'll just crank up the blend, make it glow a bit more. And if you want this to follow this exact path here, because we kind of have like this bent rectangle, you can actually use a polygon mask or a B-spline. This just makes it pretty much easier. Like if you're just looking for a quick little box, makes things nice and simple. You can use a polygon node, click all points, and make it exactly like this one. So now what we're going to do is we need to make it so that way this mask kind of animates in. So let's figure out where it animates off. And so we'll keyframe the width, and then we'll come to where it's fully on here. So I'll disable this right here. So come back to that first one. Boom. Now I'm gonna go ahead and come into the spline tab, hit zoom to fit, Control A S, smooth that out. And we're gonna need to go back in here and smooth out some of our animations, and then we'll work on the text. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna make sure everything is smooth. So for opacity, I'll come to these first two keyframes. I'll go ahead and select them, smooth them out. Same thing for these guys. Opacity, zoom to fit. S on our keyboard, smooth it out. Text. All right, this one needs to be smoothed. Smooth. And let's see if anything over here needs to be smooth. Nothing on that. All right, so actually a lot of stuff on here. Let's see, we just smoothed that out. Come over to the transform. We'll go ahead and we'll smooth this out. Hopefully it still looks good. Come into our image plane, smooth it out. Transform, nothing. Go to our I'm in B-roll. This is the same thing as the transform up there. All right, now we can come into this stuff. Thing. Center one might need to stay linear, so we're gonna keep that, and we'll just smooth out these two. We'll smooth out this one, smooth out this one, see if this has any. All right, Control A S, smooth, Control A S. So overall, it looks like we got everything. I did see that our line is kind of just moving with the camera, but we want it to stay in place down here. So I'm gonna go jump in and quickly adjust that. So we have the image plane, and now we can kind of see what's going on here. So we have it in position right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to keyframe some values, and now I'm just going to adjust it every couple frames. Just off the top of my head, this is the quickest way to do this. I'm sure there's definitely another way to do this, but see how that turns out. We'll smooth it out real quick. Oh, we got a lot going on there, so let me smooth this out. All right, so we got that right there. Now we can actually move on to adding in the text, I believe. And so what we're gonna do for this text is we're just gonna put it over the video. So now I'm gonna grab this image plane and transform again, and we're going to hit Control V down here. We're going to bring this in a little bit, connect it to our merge, and now we're gonna need our text. So I'll grab a text node and we'll connect it to our image plane right here. We'll type in, it's all caps, he's a 24-year/old YouTube millionaire. Change the font real quick to Babis. So we will just bring this text over. So I'll even reset it because it was centered until I changed it. And it looks like the font is maybe a bit bigger. There's definitely a glow on there, so we'll add in the glow. Pretty good right off the bat. Maybe add in his transform, so that way it looks more angled here. See if that works. We don't need the size. Oh, we didn't adjust the angle on there, so we'll go ahead and we will see if we can adjust the angle. All right, you know what? It kind of goes with the angle of the video. So yeah, we'll leave it the same. Move it down a little bit. Now we need to create the animation that's coming in here. So it's just going to be a simple follower modifier, but we're going to do roughly every word. So I'm going to come into this guy right here. We're going to increase the font. So I'll bring it up a bit, and now we can actually right click on the text. All right, so Now we're going to actually be using the follower modifier to make the text come in from being opaque to actually showing up on the screen. Before we do that, we need to make sure that the text lines up together. And so we're going to need to duplicate this. So we're going to need to come down here and hit Control Shift V. I'm going to bring in an instance, and we're just going to de-instance the text. So I'm going to de-instance the text. I'm going to delete this second part. Now I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to just make sure it's de-instance. I'm going to delete the bottom, the YouTube Millionaire, and that should appear on this second one. So I'm not sure exactly why it's not on the screen right now, but it should appear. We're not going to worry about that for a sec. Oh, it's not connected. That's why. So we need a merge node in here. Now we're going to make it so that way the top part is as long as the bottom part. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the size of the font. We also need to de-instance that as well. So I'll come into the second one, de-instance, and now I'll adjust the size of the first one. So now it looks pretty good. Now they're the same. We can also adjust the line spacing by coming in here to layout, and we need to de-instance this as well. So come into your instance node, go to layout, center Y, the instance, come back into the first one. We'll bring this down a little bit. All right, so that's close enough. Now what we got to do is we're going to need to actually make it fade on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a follower node. So come right here, right click on the text, follower, and we're going to come to where it's not on the screen, where it doesn't show anything. Come over to modifiers. We're going to go to the shading tab. We're going to keyframe the opacity. We'll come over to where he's a 24-year-old, appears fully on the screen. Right here, set this to 0. Now we need to create some sort of delay between the characters, and so now it will look something like this. Came in a little bit early, but it's not a massive deal. We can even bump up the delay a little bit if we don't like exactly where it came in. And now we're going to do the same thing with the bottom one. We're going to right click on the text. We're going to go to follower. Now we're just going to adjust the YouTube when it comes in. Do the same thing. Zoom in a little bit. So we'll come over to modifiers. We'll go to shading. We'll set the opacity to 0. We'll go to where it's fully on the screen, around right here. Bring it to 1. And now we'll just change the delay so that way it's pretty much on point. Now we can smooth out these nodes. So I'll come in here, AS. Now we're going to get something like this. We can come out, see the final result, see if there's any changes that we need to make. So let me go through nice and slowly, make sure that there's nothing. All right, so I also want to animate the Instagram logo. We're just gonna do a quick little thing to make it come on the screen a little bit later, I think. Actually, you know what? No, it's fine. It's just the background in the way. I see. Now we're just going to adjust the camera. We're just going to smooth out the different parts of this. So I'll come into the camera. I'll adjust the offsets at first. I might end up doing these one by one. Let me see. It'll be easier to adjust them one by one. So let me come in and adjust the smoothness of the camera. I can just grab this first one right here. Smooth that out. Over to the Y. Smooth this one out as well. The stupid markers in the way. Let me make sure that that grabbed properly. Smooth this one out. In here. Got a couple to smooth out here. smooth this one, and now we can move on to the rotation. So we're just going to do the Z rotation. That's the only parameter that we touched. So I'll go ahead and I'll smooth this out, smooth that out. All right, and that should pretty much make us done. Let's check it out. This is what you have to look forward to in the next video, which will be linked up here or up here. So go check that one out.